The first set of playing games are in the books as the Orlando Magic and the Golden State Warriors are moving on to be the 7th seed in the respective conferences. The Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Grizzlies, though, get another opportunity if they can win against the winners of tonight's playing matches. We're going to talk about last night's games. We're going to preview tonight's games a little bit and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Orlando Magic defeated the Atlanta Hawks yesterday, and the Golden State Warriors defeated the Memphis Grizzlies. And the way that both these teams did it were in different ways. Like, these games had their own complete different feel for it. The Orlando Magic just absolutely ran away with this game against the Atlanta Hawks, right? And it was evident very early on. The Orlando Magic started off with scoring 32 points in the first quarter of the game to only 17 for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Atlanta Hawks did end up winning the second quarter by only 1 point, and then the third quarter, 26-18, but then a 41-point fourth quarter by the Orlando Magic sealed that game, and they end up winning the game by 25 points. That's how much they won that game by. And Trae Young got absolutely frustrated in this game. He ends up getting ejected, which, some people are, of course, looking at it and saying he let his team down in that. But he did play 40 minutes. He went of 8 of 21 from the field, which is not usually how we're used to seeing him. He did get to the free throw line, though, 12 times and made 11 of those. He still finished with 28 points, 6 assists, 2 rebounds, and a steal. But despite the raw stats looking pretty good, they needed more from Trae Young. And that's what it came down to. Dyson Daniels, who didn't get any steals in this game. That's kind of how he's made a name for himself. He went 3 of 8 from the field in this game. And when you look at it, their second leading scorer in this game was Jordan Nang coming off the bench with 15 points. They needed more. And that's why I had the thought that I did. If Jalen Johnson was available in this game, I would have had a different outlook on it as far as the Atlanta Hawks' ability. I gave them no chance against the Orlando Magic just because of the Magic's defense. And that really stood true. Zachary Richashar, who had a solid second half of the season, went 2 of 10 for only 7 points. You're going to need better than him against whoever wins against the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Let's flip on and look at the Orlando Magic side of this. Paolo Banchero scored 17 points, which is really good. You had 19 as well from Wendell Carter, 13 for Franz Wagner. But the story of this game is Cole Anthony playing spoiler in this game. He went 10 of 17 from the field with 6 assists, 3 rebounds. He played some really good defense at times as well. Like, it was amazing to see the way that he stepped up for his team when it mattered the most. And I'll tell you what, it was completely unexpected for me. I did not expect to see Cole Anthony be the one that played spoiler in this game and led the Orlando Magic in scoring. And that just goes to how this Magic season has really gone, right? When Franz and Paolo were both down, right, they needed several players to step up. Cole Anthony was one of those players, as long as Jalen Suggs. And after they came back, you never really kind of saw consistency from that again. But you look at him. He had a plus 32 plus minus in just 20 minutes in that game. That's how much. He scored 20 in the final quarter as well. That was his 41 to 22 point quarter. And Cole Anthony played such a big role in that. Saying this, I found myself in a situation where the ball was in my hands. I was fortunate enough to have some teammates who put me in a situation where I was able to get some easy shots. I was in a situation where I could get them a few easy shots, and it just felt good. It had been a great game for us, and this is a game where we didn't want to let go. This is dang near one and done. Obviously, we would have had another opportunity if we would have lost, but for us, that there wasn't losing tonight. That wasn't an option. And it feels good to that. Cole Anthony being such a good part, and I could only imagine for him how it felt as a player stepping up for your team when it mattered the most, right? And, Jamal Mosley, head coach for the Magic, after the game saying it's been up and down year for him. 26 points tonight, but just his energy, his spark, his juice, what he provides for this team coming off the bench. He plays fearlessly, and that's how we need him to continue to play. It's been up and down because there's been moments when we talked about it earlier in the year. He was out of the rotation and then found a way. The next time down, he walks himself back in and helps us win the Miami game. That's just who he is. His resiliency, his toughness, his spark that he gives this team off the bench is just what we needed. And the Orlando Magic are going to need every bit of every spark they can get against the Boston Celtics team. But I tell you what, right, we'll wait to do our full preview to after all the playing games are done. But the Orlando Magic versus Boston Celtics is going to be a really good series, mainly because of the defense that both those teams are able to play. And I can't wait to see it. But shout out to the Orlando Magic getting past the Atlanta Hawks in this one. Like I said, the Hawks are going to get another opportunity at it. We'll see how they fare in that one. But let's get into the next playing game that happened last night. The Golden State Warriors against the Memphis Grizzlies. And in this game, they were led by Jimmy Butler scoring with 38 points. The Golden State Warriors finally get a play-in victory after they had went 0-3 in the play-in prior to that. This was a back-and-forth game, right? You look at the final score, 121-116 in favor of the Golden State Warriors. And this was a game where it looked like Ja Morant was going to be Ja Morant and take over the game. Now, luckily, the Memphis Grizzlies are going to get another opportunity at it. Make no mistake about it. But the 38 points from Jimmy Butler, the 37 points from Steph Curry, we talked about how both these players have been absolutely crazy in playoff runs before. You're going to need both of that, right? So they get to move on. They're going to face off against the Houston Rockets, a matchup that a lot of us wanted here. But they were also supported off the bench, right? Jonathan Kuminga, who there was questions of if he was going to be out of the rotation, did not get into this game at all. So take that for what you will. You get 12 points off the bench from Gary Payton, another 11 from Quentin Post, who, I tell you what, Quentin Post, man, I know that there was some talk about the Golden State Warriors trading for a center, and hopefully he's going to be stepping into a much larger role next year. But Quentin Post, 4 of 5 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range with 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 11 points in this game. And listen, the way that Steph and Jimmy really powered through in this game, right? Both getting to the free throw line. It's 13 times for Steph, 18 times for Jimmy Butler, who went 2 of 4 from the three-point line, which a lot of people have been saying he needs to take more threes, 6 of 13 from Steph. And this team it did what it needed to do, right? And this was the type of game that if the Golden State Warriors were going to win in this play-in, that they needed, right? We know that since Jimmy Butler has come to that team, it's really been Jimmy, it's really been Steph offensively. Of course, you have other players that step up. The fact that you only got 3 points from Podziemski in this game is a little bit surprising because of the way he's played on the back half of the season. You're going to need much better from him against the Houston Rockets. But, the Golden State Warriors did and took care of the business that needed to be taken care of, man. And you see the way that Steph and Steve Kerr hugged after the game, right? In that embrace, you could tell that this was a cathartic moment for these guys that just they got to do it, right? They get to make into the playoffs, right? And they're going to have an opportunity in 7 games against a young Houston Rockets team to see what they can bring, right? And the Houston Rockets as well, and I love this, right? They had a bit of a Twitter thing when it came down to that afterwards. Like the Houston Rockets, man, they announced it on their official Twitter, right? And then, when it came down to it, you got a lot of stuff from Rockets fans and stuff like this. But this is the matchup that a lot of people wanted to see, myself included, to see how the Houston Rockets deal with a young Grizzly team or an old Grizzly team of vets like the Golden State Warriors to really see what they can do. And for all those people that doubt the Houston Rockets because of their youth and the inexperience and that, to come up against an experienced team like this, that's going to be major, man. And we'll see how that continues to play out for these teams. But I think overall, this was a fun night of playing basketball. And we got another night coming right up tonight when the Chicago Bulls take on the Miami Heat, who have faced off against every play-in tournament since the play-in has been a thing. Right, so you got that matchup, which is going to be really fun to watch and see how all that can shake out. And you got the Dallas Mavericks versus the Sacramento Kings, right? And so when you look at these two games, the Chicago Bulls is the first game up, not because I'm a Bulls fan. I'm going off the timing of the games, right? They're the early game today, and this is going to be a tough matchup for both teams, right? I think Erik Spoelstra, I know the Chicago Bulls are 3-0 against the Miami Heat in this season. Josh Giddey's averaged a triple-double against the Miami Heat over those 3 games. But Erik Spoelstra, right, he's one of the best coaches, if not the best coach, in the game of basketball. And meaning that now that you've given him one opponent to focus on, he's going to have this Miami Heat team ready. And he's going to have them geared up and ready to go. And there's going to be several things in this matchup that they have to watch out for and look out for. Like, if they can get away with that zone defense, right, they're going to have to figure out where they're going to hide Tyler Hero in that matchup as far as defensively. But you can bring in Highsmith, right? You got Bam, you got Khalil Ware, right? You're going to try to look to do some things there. But this is a game where you got 2 opponents very familiar with each other. And don't let the fact that the Chicago Bulls are 3-0 against the Miami Heat in the regular season fool you. The Bulls are 3-0 against the Miami Heat in the 2022-23 season, where they won those games by a margin of almost 14 points on average, right? And they still lost in the play-in to the Miami Heat, right? So the Miami Heat are going to have to be ready. They're going to have to be geared up. Erik Spoelstra is going to have them locked in defensively. You're going to need big games from Tyler Hero. Bam is going to have to be a player that steps up for you as well. And then you're going to have to try to win your defensive matchups, right? Kobe and Josh Giddey are the engine of the Chicago Bulls offense, and part of stopping them comes down to stopping their ability to create off their drives to the lanes and not fouling, because they both have been getting to the free throw line at a great time as well, right? So you cannot overlook that. That's going to be the key thing here, and how they guard out on the perimeter and try to stop the momentum that Kobe and Josh Giddey oftenly play with. That's going to be the telling part of this game. How they play defense against those two guys are going to be huge, right? And on the other side of that for the Chicago Bulls, yeah, we know who Josh Giddey and Kobe are, right? We know what they play a part. They're a major part in what the Bulls do offensively. But you're going to need other players to step up, meaning Kevin Huerter. You're going to need him to shoot his threes. The Bulls have an amazing record when Kevin Huerter hits three or more three-pointers in a game. Matas Buzelis, the talented rookie who's really shined for the Chicago Bulls over the course of this season, that's something you're going to have to look really tough in as well to gear in for, right? So the Miami Heat are going to have to try to slow the Bulls down, which are the second highest paced team in the league. They're going to have to gear up and prepare for that. If they aren't, it's going to be tough for them. You have to slow down Josh Giddey as well. He is the engine of the Chicago Bulls offense. He's accounted for between points scored and points generated off assists. He accounts for over 30% of the Chicago Bulls offense. And they're going to have to get Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo together. Both those guys are going to have 20-point or more games if the Miami Heat want to be able to keep up with the way that the Bulls shoot in pace, well, the play in pace, shoot three-pointers. They're going to have to do that. You're going to have their role players in Wiggins and Khalil Ware step up big time as well for this Miami Heat team, and we'll see what the future holds. The winner of this game is destined for a matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, and then the winner of that game gets the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. Next up, Sacramento and the Dallas Mavericks. This is a pick your poison game, right? Because each of these teams have some big fatal flaws, right? And while I trust the defensive ability of the Mavericks a little bit more just because of them having AD on this team, AD hasn't quite looked like himself every game, right? He's had some moments of it, but hasn't quite looked like himself. And so with the Sacramento Kings having their team basically fully healthy, right? Sabonis, Levine, DeMar, right? All these guys being fully healthy. Malik Monk, we know he's going to be out, right? So he's not playing. But outside of that, this Sacramento Kings team still has a bunch of offensive firepower at their disposal. It's just are they going to get what they need out of them is the biggest question here, right? You're going to need Sabonis, especially, his biggest weakness is defensively, but you're going to need every bit of the assists, the rebounds that Sabonis gets for this team. DeMar DeRozan and his ability to get to the free throw line is going to be huge for this team as well. That's going to be pretty big. And Zach LaVine, you're going to not need boneheaded Zach LaVine. And as a Bulls fan, I know how often Zach LaVine can make boneheaded decisions sometimes when the games matter the most, right? So you're going to have to see both teams really lock in here. And for the Dallas Mavericks, right, it comes down to as well who's going to step up outside of AD, the balance that they find on that roster, right? How the role players step up. The defense that they're able to do could really disrupt what the Sacramento Kings are trying to do, absolutely. And they're going to need that, but they're going to need somebody else to also step up scoring-wise for this team. You have no Kyrie Irving in this. He's not going to be there. Klay's had some pretty big games against Zach LaVine over his career, and DeMar DeRozan for that matter. So you're going to need Klay as well if you can get a vintage Klay game, right? And that's the special thing about the play-in. It's one game. So all you need is somebody to go off for one game. I think that Klay can have a typical Klay Thompson game for at least one game, right? And so that's the thing that could make the dangerous in this as well, is getting that one game from like a Klay, right? And how that could shape up. I got the Sacramento Kings personally winning this game, but that's not to say that the Dallas Mavericks don't have the opportunity to. They absolutely do. It just comes down to who can make enough stops defensively and whose offense stays in rhythm the longest in this game is, I think, what it's going to come down to for whoever to walk away with a victory in this game. The winner of this game does go on to face the Memphis Grizzlies. The winner of that goes on to be the 8th seed in the Western Conference. So, the play-in tournament, of course, is not done yet. Those second games will be done, I think, on Friday is when those next games are going to happen. So, we'll see what the future holds for these teams, man. But overall, I expect another fun night of playing basketball tonight around the NBA. But you guys can let me know what you think on everything down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. And like I like to end all these episodes on, I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Pod tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.